Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Coded. I'm going to put some links in this video. I'm going to add it to the 33 series, and it'll be a follow-on to a previous episode where I was talking about 33 and symbolism in the movies. Now, this link from Myth Vision Podcast, they interview Robert Sullivan IV. He's published a few books, and two of them are on esoteric Masonic symbolism in Hollywood and in the movies. Now, he's a 32nd degree Mason himself, so if you listen to the full interview, he knows what he's talking about. He has some great insights and views on Enoch, Hermes Trismegistus, Pythagoras, and from someone who knows rather than, unfortunately, some of the clickbaity stuff that you get on the internet. However, again, please watch. Now, Hollywood symbolism, I'll put some links to some earlier videos I've did. So, for instance, The Matrix has some very interesting symbolism in there. The way Phi, the golden section in Hollywood. The Ghostbusters movie as well, I'll put that link, as well as J.J. Abrams in Lost, Fringe, Alias, and Star Trek Part 2 of a recent movie. Again, always falling on these very special numbers. The background is in there as well. I noticed, having watched Unbreakable by M. Night Shyamalan, I noticed that especially between The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, the inclusion of Ionic and Corinthian or Acanthus elements at crucial parts of a movie as well. It's not just sort of random parts. At very crucial parts, very emotional parts, family-related, deep emotional parts, just happens to pan across and show the Ionic as well as Acanthus corbels in there as well. Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian being so important on the Blue Lodge tracing board. Also, I'll put a link to part 9 of his Science of the Symbols and the All-Seeing Eye, which you'll find in old churches as well. Before modern Masonry as we know it was formalized, this symbol is very, very, very old, very prominent. Of course, you'll find it on Mason boards and or the American dollar bill, the All-Seeing Eye being an example. Also, I'll put this link, 33 movies, Masons Hoover Dam, as well as a link by Theophile, who posted a link to in regards to how it appears in French movies as well. Back to Robert Sullivan IV, who's by no means anti-Mason, he's a Mason himself, but he talks about this. And interesting questions is that how deep does this go? So we find the same numbers, same measurements, same proportions in cathedrals, temples, major public buildings, cross time, cross the world, cross cultures. Now, either there is a rule book out there, which doesn't seem to be published anywhere, that all this is based on, or is it deep, deep inside us? I can't answer this. I would favour that there is a rule book out there, but that would imply a deep organisation behind it, enforcing it, because it's not just about grand cathedrals. You'll find it in small towns as well. So it's okay. These are questions I can't answer. It's definitely there because it's there to be measured. It's repeated. It's consistent. To say it's random is delusional. It is now. This type of stuff would be called fringe, delusional, that we're seeing things where they aren't. Well, there's also cognitive dissonance where people refuse to accept things that are there and will use excuses like coincidence to so they can sleep well at night and sleep with this idea of this falsehood. It is out there. It is repeated. It's not just like modern European Masonry. It is consistent across the world, across time, across cultures. These links will be in the description. Now, in earlier episodes, I talked about the 32 rays over 33rd, such as the Perry-Reese map being one example, or Porterland mapping. You also find it in for Pyramid of Peace and Reconciliation in really everywhere. Now, these are just some examples because already had the cards made. St. Paul's Cathedral in London, both as above and as below. Also, the eye, the Millennium. What's the official name of it anyway? Also, again, Catholic, Protestant, all cathedrals, you'll find it in so many aspects. It really is a thing. Town planning as well. And again, the American dollar bill, which includes the all-seeing eye, but 32 feathers on one side, 33 on the other. The UN flag has 32 sectors around the 33rd central core point as well. And also what you'll see, so we have this traditional design, which is actually very esoteric, where you'll have 32 rays around the 33rd core point. So rather than have 24 to match for 24 hours of the clock, what we have is this 32 around the 33rd core sun ray. Now, School of Physics here at University of Sydney, what again? The sun ray, 32 around the 33rd core point. It is consistent. Now, this brings us to another example of Hollywood musical symbolism. I could put a bunch of, the set designers, directors, prior to even the internet, where you had to really, really go out and search for this in the library, and just seem to be either educated in this or possibly it's some subconscious thing. But, well, just like how major architects and sculptors covered him in a lot of videos prior, again, measurement, proportion, this does not happen by accident, and it's in the major places, not just some random site, but the same sculptors, architects, artists, again and again, in major public places, right next to major public buildings, which repeat this metrological, symbolic aspects in their architecture, which is then repeated in the street plans as well. So again, street plans, I've covered it. Ancient buildings, modern buildings in this series, I've covered it. I'll add this to the 33 playlist, which brings us to Epic and Faith No More. So the closing scenes, we have them raining down. Okay. Also, if you watch again now, his t-shirt says Master, and at the end, at the final scene, he sits down and plays out on a piano. A different shirt then, upturned pentagrams. I think the keyboardist is probably the one most in the know, at least the director is, because we have the closing scenes where it's raining, and then we have what was even controversial at the time. We have this fish flipping and dying. The fish is dying, and it was, Now what's going on? It's interesting to note that in the great year in precession, which is a bona fide astronomical thing, which is again incorporated in the symbols and the architecture, the alignments of building, but we are exiting the age of Pisces and we are entering the age of Aquarius. This is now some kumbaya kind of stuff attached to it, but like the song, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Well, it literally is, because on the northern hemisphere spring equinox, or down here in the southern hemisphere the autumn equinox, as the sun rises, the constellation Pisces for the last 2,160 years, give or take, has been behind the sun. But now we are entering the age of Aquarius, in that the constellation Aquarius will be behind the sun as it rises on the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere. And we are now right in between them. Now, it depends on how you measure it. Some would say we've actually entered the age of Aquarius. Some will say we're still on the very end. Some will say we're in the middle. But let's just say we're right in the middle of that period, depending on how you measure it, because, well, it's a bit difficult. But we're entering the age of Aquarius. I think it's interesting that they end with water and the rain, and they end with the dying fish as well. Pisces, a fish; Aquarius, water, the water bearer. But what's interesting is that, well, the opening scene of this song, Epic, has the all-seeing eye in the hand. And you'll also, and I'll put the link in the description because I did a video a while back and it runs for 33 seconds depending, but you'll see the all-seeing eye. Now I've got, I can play that clip. So this is the opening scene, and I won't play the video because I'd tried that before, even just clip bits out, but I always got blocked. But so that's the opening scene. That's one eye. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and back to that. Now, because some of those are so split second, I had to go through use a video editing software and scan it, and one of them is up there for such like 25, 24 frames per second. One of them's up there for like 2 frames, 3 frames. You won't pick it up if you're just watching it normally, but if you go through super slow motion or put it through your editing, there are actually 33 eyes or 32, depends on how you count. And isn't that interesting? 32 over 33, we all seeing eye and these other things. So there is a lot. And yeah, again, there are a few other. The links in the description, I go through some of these movies, how they'll embed certain important, just for a glimpse, where was it? For instance, in Hollywood now, 1.618 is the golden ratio, and there was that series Dig, which was about a plot to blow up the mosque at the Temple Mount to rebuild a third temple, and they just panned across just ever so slightly, but they would always include the number plate of this in there. Now, set designers, cinematographers go to some effort. They're careful in what they do. They don't just randomly point the camera somewhere and get it. And that throughout this whole series, that they always incorporated the number plate and did it in such a way that it was just, you would miss it. But if you got eyes to see, well, there it is again. There it is again. And also J.J. Abrams, Lost, Fringe, Alias, Star Trek, how the golden ratio 108, 72, 42, as in the 42 books of Thoth, the fish as well, and embedded in these designs, where it's not just the cinematography, but also including artworks that were, they didn't just find them somewhere. They designed these and incorporated them into the plot line of a story, and again, just embedded with there. So these links will be in the description. 32 over 33 is another example. Again, previous one was on again, that one there, and I'll put that link in the description as well. Add this to the 33 series. I actually could go on for quite some time just in regards to 33 feet, 33 symbolism, ancient and modern. The burden of proof is really on those who would be skeptical at this point, because it's in the random world, why would this be happening again? But whatever helps you sleep at night. Some would immediately go to evil intent. Some, well, I would be neutral at this point, because this is built into it's just a beautiful number, the geometry connected to these types of things as well. If you go for that, they're part of creation, if you want to put it that way. Now, there's a lot of evil, spooky Satan stuff in there, and, well, those who promote that will usually be the ones who say math and geometry is evil. Well, there's really no response to that level. If you want to embed ignorance and ignore the geometry, which is the underlying creation, if that's how you see the world, well, this is part of it. Embrace it, study it, understand it. It's like a sword. It can be used for good. It can be used for evil. If you say it's just for evil, well, then you could be well, okay, I'll leave that on the side. I'll add this to the series. Cheerio. Have a good one.